So it was reported that Andrade and Tony Khan started talking back in March. So this is right when he got released.
Right.
And they couldn't come to a deal then because Andrade reportedly wanted creative control and
Mm.
veto power over all his matches in his contract. At the time, AEW said no. There were similar reports coming out of his negotiations with Impact. He wanted creative control. He also wanted a lot more money than Impact could afford, and they were not able to come to a deal about that. So, that was kind of a big thing for him. He wanted that creative control over his career. He wanted that over his character and his in-ring stuff, which I think all wrestlers kind of to an extent want. But they were able to come to a deal where Andrade has a lot of creative input. But at the end of the day, Tony Khan has, like, he's just like Vince McMahon. He has all the control over everything that happens. So, what do we think about this? Like, what do we think about Andrade or just wrestlers in general having creative control clauses in their contract?
No, I mean I can kind of understand it, especially where he's coming from WWE when you have really no creative control, not even a little bit, for the most part. And that didn't really help his career there. Like I mean, so you can understand where he's coming from. Like I want some creative control going on, but I can also see where the owners and also the creative team for the particular like federations or want more control than the actual performers because what if their ideas or what their visions don't match what the wrestler visions. You know what I mean? You want to be able to talk about that. You want to be able to like try to put it together, and you don't want the talent to have a bigger, I guess, a bigger head than what they deserve. So you kind of want to have more more control over it and like run it by them and see how it goes and go that way. But I can understand why some of the superstars want creative control, especially going to like places where it's all done by the higher ups and not by them. So I get both sides.
Yeah, and you made a really interesting point there that I want to talk about, and like this idea coming from the WWE culture. A lot of these people who were released, I understand completely why they would want some creative control because they had no input whatsoever in WWE and they had all their ideas shot down. So them not being trusting of higher ups or not being trusting of another company, being able to portray them in the light that they want, it makes total sense to me. And I think that's a very good point, and I think even a point in favor of that. That being said, I think creative control clauses, like, it depends on the wrestler. Like, it works out great sometimes, and it works out terribly. WCW gave everybody creative control, and that
True.
turned out to be a mess. And I think that's why it's important that about what AEW is doing and has been doing, they are fostering more of a culture of trust, I think, with the wrestlers about creative input, which I think is important and hasn't happened in the wrestling industry for a long time. Tony Khan has, like, everyone knows Tony Khan is like the end all be all in AEW, but he wants people's ideas to come forward. And I think a lot of times he even talked about it. He said, I want people who have ideas for themselves because, like, I can come up with all the ideas I want, right? But if the wrestler isn't invested in it and don't have input in it, then they're not going to go out there and perform it to the best of their ability, and it's not going to be them. And odds are it might not work. So Tony Khan is asking for that input. He thrives on it, right? So, and that's something that's been missing in the wrestling industry for a long time. So,
Mhm.
because usually it's like these bookers like to do things the way they want to do it, and like we've seen, like WCW. Go back to anything that happened in WCW, like the booking committees were mad there. But I do think though creative control can lead to problems, and it's better to have that culture of trust and better to just play it like that, like the way AEW is playing it, rather than just go down the role of just giving everybody creative control. Because once you go down that route, man, it's just, okay, Andrade comes to the pay-per-view, doesn't want to lose. And I'm not saying Andrade would do this, right? Anyway,
Right.
Wrestler X comes down to the pay-per-view, championship match. Brother, I don't feel like losing my title today, brother, 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 which literally happened multiple
Yeah,
times. Or
I was
changing
about
the
to.
finish in the middle of the ring in the biggest match in the company's history. You know, you want to avoid stuff like that.
I was, I already knew who you were talking about, and I was definitely about to mention that. But but that's why you don't want them to have complete creative control. But again, to piggyback off what you were saying, coming from that WWE culture, WWF culture, like that's some of the biggest. That's one of the biggest things that a lot of the wrestlers had a problem with. If you look back on Cody Rhodes' statement when he left, that's one of the things he said. Like he pitched them ideas. He talked to this person, that person. I'm not mentioning names, but this person, that person, multiple times, and like and almost pleaded with them, like, this is what I want to do. This is what will make this character do this and that, and they was like, oh yeah, that's interesting. So put on this faceplate and do this. Okay, good. Break.
I think you're right, though. I think you're right. Coming from that mentality of WWE, where everything you did was just shot down, it's understandable that wrestlers would want that
Right.
that creative input, and I understand it, and they should. There should be some sort of balance. There should be some sort of like understanding of that. So I hope we see that. I hope we see that moving forward. Thanks for watching this video from Real Take Sports Talk. Remember to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Also, remember to check out our live show every single Thursday at 8 p.m. right here on the YouTube channel. And remember, keep it real.